It is my pleasure to introduce to you our first student today. And our first student is Nandini Jayaram, and she attends Pleasant Valley High School in Bettendorf. She is the daughter of Vidya Ganesha and Ganesha Jayaram. And her project is called Securing Abundant Food by Empowering Tenacious Youth.
Good morning. My name is Nandini Jayaram, and my project today I'm going to talk about is called SAFETY, which stands for Securing Abundant Food by Empowering Tenacious Youth. SAFETY addresses food insecurity concerns, and we demonstrate it through a proof of concept through Davenport Mid-City High School, which I will talk about today in my presentation. Now, to give you a bit of background about Mid-City High School, Mid-City High School is in Davenport, Iowa, and uses an alternative form of education through team and project-based learning for its 300 students, all of whom are under the poverty line. It includes 25 teen moms and 30 homeless teenagers, and they all rely on convenience stores for their meals. Now, the urban farm on their campus started as an environmental science class elective under the leadership of Ms. Lynn Myers, who's here in the audience with us today, and it was used to produce, grow, and organic food on their farm. Now, why is SAFETY such a big deal? Because 22 million children across the country go hungry every day and don't know where their next meal is coming from. Now, research has shown that child hunger negatively affects cognitive development inside and outside of their classroom participation. SAFETY has shown that through these 22 million children who go hungry every day, 122,000 children go hungry in Iowa alone, 7,000 in the Quad Cities where I hail from, and about 700 here in West Branch where we are today. Now, this problem gets much worse in the summer months, when 18 million children go hungry because they don't know where their meal is coming from, without access to school or any local food pantries. This is why it was my primary goal for SAFETY to address summer food concerns and make sure students during the summer have access to food without school. Now, I've committed to 7 primary goals through SAFETY, which I can bucket into 3 different categories. The first objective was to make sure the operations of the farm runs well through engaging more volunteers in the farm, scaling up food production, delivering to the students through the summer months, and surveying the benefits of the farm on the students. The next objective would be to drive sustainability through raising additional funds for the farm. And the last objective would be to scale up this farm over the state and throughout the country, hopefully, by identifying other schools in my local area that have the same problem and raising awareness throughout the state of this problem. I'm happy to tell you today that I've achieved all the 7 goals I committed to a few months earlier in this year. I've been able to achieve all 7 of these goals, and I'm working to solidify a couple of the other goals over the next couple months. I will now talk to you in detail about all these goals and what I've done over the last couple months. Our first goal was to engage more volunteers in the farm. Between last summer and this summer, we employ students through Mid-City High School to come in over the summer through the Iowa Youth Corps and get paid to work on the farm. And this summer we had 4 volunteers from Mid-City High School, who you can see in the center pictures. On the left, on the top left, you see me, and on the bottom left and on the right, you see John Deere interns who came to the farm through John Deere and were employed to intern over the summer. Now, our main goal for this summer was to also scale up farm production, and this is our first year where we grew kale and collard greens, and we continued to grow tomatoes, cabbage, and peppers. We also were able to increase the acreage of our farm between last year and this year by 25%. Last year alone, in 2016 throughout the school year, we grew 3,000 pounds of food. In the last 3 months alone, we've grown 1,000 pounds of food, which equates to about $1,600 in market value, which is how much we are saving those families in need at Mid-City from spending on food. The most important goal that I addressed earlier was delivering food to students over the summer. Over 55% of those 1,000 pounds went to Mid-City students over summer. We identified the 15 most in-need families and students at Mid-City High School and arranged their visits once a week to the school over summer to give the food to. We also hosted Madison and Monroe elementary schools for about 80 students to come visit our farm who were part of the Stepping Stones program, which is a program for free and reduced lunch elementary kids throughout the year. The rest of the food went to local food pantries in our area. The next goal was to survey the benefits of the farm on these students. As you can see through 2 quotes from students at Mid-City here, the farm has really helped them alleviate stress, form new friendships, and overcome labels they have felt because of going to an alternate school. Now, I have a video for you here, so you can hear from one of the students themselves.
I'm 18.
Okay, so you're a senior here?
Yes, sir.
What you can do when you're done?
Hopefully be diesel technician for John Deere.
So where are you going to build the calendar?
No, I'm going to be going to Calamar.
Oh, yeah, right.
Combines all the way to the BMW.
Yeah, right.
I know that was a bit hard to hear, but this is a senior at Davenport Mid-City High School named Daniel, and he plans to go to Calamar College and pursue a job as a diesel technician at John Deere after he graduates because of his work on the farm. Do any of you recognize the gentleman on the right? That is Youth Congressman Dave Loebsack. And I'll talk a little bit more about who he is and why he came to the farm a little bit later. Now, the next goal was to drive sustainability through raising funds. Along with Ms. Myers, me and Ms. Myers worked to raise funds over the summer months, and we wrote to many such foundations for fundraising. Our first of which was Wellmark Foundation, which we received a $100,000 large match grant. And we also applied to John Deere, and we received $20,000 for operational expenses. For the $100,000 grant that we applied to Wellmark Foundation, that was to serve to acquire a building, which has a 3-pronged purpose. The first purpose of the building would be to store equipment that we already have, like the tractors and the tillers. The second purpose would be to store and cook produce from the farm that we currently only store under the school because we don't have any other space to store it, and we don't have a space to hygienically cook the food that we grow. And the third purpose would be to serve as a classroom to teach students at Mid-City and hopefully people from around the community about the farm. Over the summer, me and Ms. Myers wrote to many foundations for more grants, including Wells Fargo, Scott County Regional Authority, and we're waiting for over $100,000 outstanding from results. Over the summer, I also worked with a few volunteers to develop a calendar of activities for the next year of what we plan to do on the farm, working from harvest this season to tilling and composting in the spring to harvest next summer. The last part of the sustainability plan would be succession planning. Ms. Myers and her passion and her engagement to the farm has really enhanced the education of these students and how self-sustainable they are. But unfortunately, she will be retiring in a few years. So she spent the summer recruiting other science teachers across Mid-City to later take a leadership role and take up the farm activities over the next few years, such as Mr. Schneider, pictured here. The next goal was to identify other local schools that have the same needs. As I mentioned earlier, we hosted 80 elementary students over the summer to come pick up over 200 pounds of food and learn about how to sustain a farm, how to have a farm, and what the benefits are of farming. We hope to identify other local schools in the future to branch out this idea and scale it up across our community. I also developed a how-to manual for urban farming that in the future we can hopefully use to expand across, which covers topics ranging from the purpose of a farm to how to plan a farm to the delivery and sustainability of a farm as topics I've talked about today in the presentation. Our last goal was to raise awareness of this project across the state. I'm currently the Public Relations Chair of the State of Iowa Youth Advisory Council, and by talking to over 20 members across the state about what Mid-City is and our shared passion for community service, I've been able to talk about Mid-City through our local brochure and newsletter. And as you saw in the video earlier, Congressman Dave Loebsack did visit our farm last month. I've been interning for him for the past year, and I organized his visit to the farm last month where he spent over an hour talking to students and encouraging them in their endeavors of the farm and realizing the impact this farm has on his local constituents. So I hope I've been able to demonstrate to you today the different goals that I've been able to achieve through the farm, and that on the driving sustainability goal, not only were we able to raise a substantial amount of funds, we were also able to create a how-to manual, drive succession planning, and expand this to other schools through a calendar of activities and identifying other schools. The last goal of raising awareness has a lighter check mark because I had hoped in my initial proposal to be featured in our local newspaper or create a documentary, and we had a couple of challenges pursuing that, but we hope to go through with that over the next couple months as well. Though we've had many achievements, we've had a few challenges that we've had to face over the summer. Our first challenge was volunteers. Between last year and this year, we have about half the number of volunteers who sign up, the student volunteers from Mid-City who sign up at the beginning of the year by the end of the summer. And we hope to combat this problem next year by expanding our search for volunteers across the entire Davenport school district and offering them better incentives. Our second problem was pest control, and as you can see here, there are many potato beetles on the potato plants because we planted later this year and we hope to solve this next year by doing early potato planting and researching organic pesticides. Now, in closing, I would like to thank a few of the people without whom this project would not be where it is today. Ms. Lynn Myers, the founding mother of the Mid-City High School Farm, Mr. Nate Clark, who couldn't be here with us today, but is the vice president of the John Deere Foundation and has been with this project since the initial seed funds. Ms. Lauren Schreck, a John Deere intern who I worked with to accomplish all these goals over summer. And lastly, and most importantly, the truly uncommon students of Mid-City High School. Now, safety really relates to President Hoover's principles because of how much it emphasizes self-sustainability and food problems. Now, as you can see here, this is a picture that was created in 1917 when President Hoover first began and was actually appointed as the US Food Administration head. This picture really represents how these students are self-sustaining, and it really shows how food secure they were because the US School Garden Army was created in 1917, exactly 100 years ago, to help the US avoid a food crisis by teaching children how to farm sustainably. And it really ties in because the truly uncommon students of Mid-City today, as you can see here, through their daily farm implements and their wheelbarrow and the food they actually grow from their farm, have become food secure and are not only working to become food secure on their own, as you can see from the quote from this student, but they're working to better the lives of their own families and the students and their families around them in their community. Now, as President Hoover once said, let us remember that great human advances have not been brought about by mediocre men and women. They've been brought about by truly uncommon people with vital sparks of leadership. Now, the most important part that we have to remember is that there are 22 million children across the country who still go food hungry every day and are food insecure. That is why I believe safety is so important and really needs to be scoped up eventually to a national level to address these children and fix their problem and make them as food secure as these children were, as President Hoover emphasized. I sincerely thank you for your time and attention and for honoring me to share my story and listen to the stories of these truly uncommon Mid-City students. I'm now open to any questions. Thank you.
Equipment you mentioned, tractors and tillers, was that donated?
So the school actually started about 2 years ago. They moved to a bigger space, and when they moved there, they had about a couple acres of land in their backyard on campus. So they just started the farm on the land itself that the school already had owned. And with the equipment, the first year they started the farm, they applied to Scott County Regional Authority for their initial grants for $19,500, in which they received equipment for the tractors, tillers, manure spreaders, etc.
You were awarded a grant of $100,000?
Right, that was this May.
Right.
And that was a large match grant, so we have been working, the reason we had to work for those other grants was it's a match grant, so we had to match as much as we could to the $100,000 to receive the equivalent amount from Wellmark.
How have you been doing?
We've been doing really well so far. We have about 50 to 70,000 covered because we have through the Davenport School Board for salaries, and we received a grant from, we're working to receive from Wells Fargo and Scott County Regional Authority. We're waiting on funds from them.
So you need a little more publicity.
Right, and that's why I started with the congressman last month, and hopefully I'm working to be put in the newspaper in a couple months, hopefully, as well. That's the last part we're working on.
Very nice.
Thank you. Yes?
How did you go about engaging the students to volunteer from the schools, and how successful were you able to get the volunteers to help, and were they able to help harvest?
So the students themselves are the ones who lead this program. There's about 40 of them in the class during the year, and they volunteer on their own because they get paid through the Iowa Youth Corps to come over summer and work on the farm. And it was these 4 students who volunteered on their own to come over summer, and they got paid. And then by the end of summer, it's them who are leading the harvest. It's they who are. I just brought a few John Deere interns and myself to volunteer for a few weeks, but it was throughout the week. It's 5 days a week. They come in for 4 hours every morning with Miss Myers and work to harvest and take care of the farm every year.
This is such a community-based activity that you're engaging schools, other organizations. You mentioned food pantries, et cetera. So in your how-to manual, do you address that kind of building that coalition of partners necessary to scale and sustain this kind of work.
Right, and I'm sorry it wasn't fine print, but it does address how important it is to scale it up, because it starts off with the primary population we're addressing, which is Mid-City High School, but as we've been able to discover the last couple of months, it's really important to involve the community, other schools, food pantries, and other foundations in your local area to even raise awareness of how important food insecurity is. So yeah, it does address scaling up and sustainability of the farm.
Do you think that you will be able to obtain the help on the farm, on the crops, by students who are not paid?
I do think so, because these students are motivated enough to come. They volunteer to be in the class on their own during the year. So I think that hopefully we can incentivize them to also stay over summer and come during the year. We already have them 5 days a week and sometimes in the weekends as well. So I think hopefully we can wean them off and have them volunteering on their own.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.